happiness was a real goal for their parents in raising them, right? Like happiness as a goal in childhood. And I know people hear that, they're like, okay, sorry, what's the problem? Like, we want our kids to be happy. What's wrong with that? But if I give some examples, right? Like, okay, didn't make the soccer team in my town. Okay, like and I remember this, this guy said, my dad worked 1 million hours a week. He came home early that day. He found another soccer team. He drove me 2 days later to the tryout. He was coming home from work early. He was driving me 45 minutes to be in a different soccer. Or, I was crying that I didn't get the thing I wanted at the toy store. And yes, then my parents found it immediately online somewhere else. And it was at my house 2 days later, right? And like, they always wanted me to be happy. I kind of had this aha moment, like, okay, wait, what happens in childhood when we kind of really orient toward our kids' happiness is any moment where our kid has intense distress, we believe we have to exit them out of distress and enter them into happiness. And so what's happening in their body is I feel frustrated or sad or let down or less than. All feelings we all feel throughout our lives. There's no way out of those feelings. And what their body is learning is when I have that feeling turn on, I then have next to that the expectation of that feeling turning off and happiness turning on. And if I fast forward to adulthood, I just think that's a really hard expectation. So in adulthood, when you get fired from a job, which can happen to anyone, like usually the next day, you don't turn that feeling off and, turn the happiness of a new job on. I'm in traffic. Well, guess what? The best thing to do when you're in traffic is cope with traffic. Like there's no immediate exit, right? To not traffic. So what I saw was a real inability to cope with anything distressing. And almost an expectation that happiness should be around the corner, which leads people feeling very paralyzed. And actually, what we were saying earlier, Ryan, totally unable to feel capable in a time of stress because they were never taught to tolerate stress. Our kids can't learn to tolerate feelings that we don't tolerate in them.
Yes.
Hard stop. They are learning that in their childhood. Like, what is tolerable? And it's interesting. I think so much of confidence actually isn't even learning to figure things out. It's learning that it's okay to be you when you haven't yet figured things out. Like I think
Sure.
confidence isn't feeling like the best at things. It's learning it's okay to be you when you're not the best at something. And so that moment that let's say kids like, I didn't make soccer. Like you can make it really concrete. You could be like, okay, I know there's another soccer team. I'm just going to wait 48 hours. 48 hours. Okay, I can do anything for 48 hours. Okay. So for the next 48 hours, instead of being like, look at this. And by the way, we're going to get you this private tutor. And by the way, let's go practice. And right. Okay. No, I can just say very simple things to my kid. Like, you really wanted to make that team. Oh, you thought you were going to make that team and you didn't. You didn't want that to happen. That's one of my favorite lines. You didn't want that to happen. Oh, I can see you're really upset. Oh, your two best friends made it and you didn't. Yeah, I get that going to school tomorrow is not going to feel so great. And what I'm doing is I'm basically saying to my kid, I still like you when this happens to you because I'm willing to talk to you and engage with you. I don't need to exit you from this road. And so let's allow ourselves to feel this way for a little bit. That's actually building resilience. And then sure, if I have the random rule, 36 hours, 48 hours later, I might say, hey, you know what I'm thinking about? There's this other team. Is that something you want to, we can make that happen. But it's not the number one first strategy.